say me. Temple. Temple. When I say temple, you say me. Temple. Temple.
It all comes down to being able to distinguish yourself apart on something that's meaningful to prospective students. It wants to be a very approachable institution, and it wants to be one where you can go ahead and come in, work hard, and earn a solid quality degree.
The main thrust is it's got to be affordable, it's got to be relevant. You got to get a degree that's relevant, that you can use and get a job with, or create jobs with. And if we're not doing that, we've failed.
What it is the individual. And Temple is not people who have been given, everything that they have. They've had to work for everything that they have. And I think that employers, it really translates to them.
Temple Made is a product of Temple. When you graduate, you go in the real world with experience from Temple. And that experience is Temple Made.
I've been here at Temple for 2 years, and I've seen all the opportunity Temple has to offer, and I've taken advantage of these opportunities. And I feel like I've grown as a person because of Temple. I've got a lot of experiences from Temple. Once I graduate with a Temple degree, I will be Temple Made. I'll be ready for the real world.
You look around here and it's literally the color of the rainbow for skin and hair.
It's part of the Temple culture. I mean, you come out during finals from the library at 2 in the morning, there's a drum circle. It's stuff like that. I mean, that's not going to happen anywhere else.
If Temple didn't have diversity, I wouldn't come here.
We hadn't done a new campaign in several years, and so there sort of seemed to be this, if you will, vortex of need to start talking about ourselves. We'd been fairly quiet. The minute that the Neiman team came and presented the concept of Temple Made, it just felt like that was going to be something that would be different and felt very true to the university.
So we're here at Neiman headquarters. I'm gonna go talk to Jackie and some of the people that made the campaign. Hi.
How you doing?
Is this Neiman?
It sure is.
We're
on your Temple?
Yeah.
Awesome. Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Good to see you again. You can follow me and kind of take a look around.
So every week we do a social media briefing. It kind of recaps the highlights of the headlines for the week.
I don't care.
So it's like a featured advertiser every
Yeah, it's really cool though.
There's only 5 people that follow that page. So this guy's putting a lot of effort. I was pretty intimately involved in the original request for a proposal. We sat in this exact room and threw some ideas on the wall and kind of came up with our pitch for a strategy and a concept for Temple Made.
This entire room was covered with, I think you saw the picture, Temple planning. We were trying to map out the City Hall domination and we had everything up on the windows, things in front of the whiteboard there on the floor, trying to just map out all the different moving pieces of the media plan that we were developing. A lot of creative versions, a lot of placements, and just a lot of coordination that needed to be done. So we all kind of lived here for that week, and everyone was committed to the project, and everyone was committed to, this big hurdle that we had to overcome in getting that first campaign out in the market. And I think we were all pretty happy with it, even though it was a little crazy. But that's advertising.
We captured what we thought was the essence of the university and sort of that attitude of what makes a Temple student special. We just weren't sure how we could say it. So we threw out a bunch of ideas, and Temple Made was just one in a list, and it might have been the 5th or 6th one. After we kind of looked at them all on the wall, we kept going back to Temple Made because it says a lot, it's short, it's simple, and it was unique for Temple. Obviously, it has the name Temple in it.
Our job is to kind of craft those things into not only things that look good visually, but also can speak to people on an emotional level. An effective ad is just, reaching somebody emotionally with the words and combination of the words and the visuals.
I don't think every higher education community needs to have a brand created, but every school, college needs an identity of some sort. I can say Harvard, and you know what Harvard's all about. You think of like crew teams and really smart kids and like oak trees or something like that. But some schools, you can't say it that easily of what that school is all about, and that's where a team that can come in and come up with a way of expressing what the identity of that school in a way that the community can latch onto it, I think that's good for any school.
Just before we get started, I'm just going to show up again what kind of majors we have here tonight. I'm here advertising. How many strategic communication? Okay, well, great to have you guys. We're going to be hearing all about the Temple Made campaign tonight.
And so we actually did a search for directors for the TV that were Temple grads. And this was such a fun experience because it was just going around and documenting what you guys do every day. The first time I saw it, my jaw just dropped, and I was like, wow, that was not what I was expecting, and I just fell in love with it.
Minds made. Ideas made. Breakthroughs made. Status quos erased by self-starters. Not just showing what they're made of, but what they've made. Often leading the way, always pushing forward. Forever proud of where they come from and where they're going.
Looks like you can get through Temple without ever being in a classroom. That's my first reaction to it. This has nothing to do with what I do. I'm not sure how much it has to do with the everyday experience of most of the students I teach. So I guess we're gritty, we're industrial, we're entrepreneurial, we're scientific, and most of all, we're athletic. At least we're still urban. It's not the university I teach at. I didn't see one book. I didn't see one teacher at a blackboard or in front of a screen. I didn't see one piece of writing. I don't know how to talk about it without sounding like a fuddy-duddy.
But that goes along with the notion of self-reinvention, which is a term that I encounter a lot in the study of neoliberalism. You know, the notion that every person is a startup and every person has to make themselves. So it's a widespread belief in American society that was unfolded in the late 80s and 90s when we begin to see a whole shift in the notion about what a proper human being is, somebody who will be entrepreneurial about themselves, will make themselves, that there are no limits, no constraints on individual self-invention.
Am I going to pose with me?
Yeah, I'm just getting some quick, like...
Beautiful man. He's got great teeth. I don't have teeth that good. So I went to this room in Mitten Hall to get my face painted and everything. I couldn't be a model because I just can't handle the yelling and the camera work and everything. That's the number one reason why. And about 3 weeks later, I got a phone call from my boss. She was out to lunch. And she said that my face was all over campus and that, you know, you should be ashamed of yourself or whatever. You're everywhere, right? Yeah. So naturally, me being who I am, I had to come out and look at all the pictures of me. There's only 2 in the end, but...
When you take a look at all this marketing and advertising that's taking place out there, it's a relative sea of sameness. Every college has the same old shot of 3 kids under a tree, white, black, Latino, maybe Asian, on a laptop, playing guitar, throwing a Frisbee. It's sort of... And all these schools will say, but that's who we are and that's what we offer. But the reality is, well, if it doesn't make you unique, then it doesn't add any value. Campaigns are no longer these static TV spots and print ads that you just put out there and then you go make more. Like, they go out there and people react to them. They tweet to them. They post them on YouTube. They share them on Facebook. And if you're not looking at that engagement, they engage with you and you don't engage back with them, that is an utter failure from a marketing standpoint.
This is a real view of Temple University right now.
There are a lot of ways to sum up what we do, but one way to define who we are, Temple Made.
I've had conversations in other classes about the campaign, and I think a lot of people take it at face value and are comfortable with it. They think it's fun. Other people question it and feel a little funny about it sometimes. I mean, advertising is about simplifying down to essences, even if those essences don't exist, if they're invented.
To some degree, the ad campaign seems about creating a sense of community rather than necessarily, trying to figure out what that is. In a way, it's doing a masterfully good job of what it's supposed to do.
It definitely creates a community that's there, but it's the same thing we've been talking about, that it's almost like a put on. Making the photo itself is like creating that experience.
What is defined as the community, the Temple community? Is it the Temple campus? Is it Temple and the surrounding area of the campus? Because if it's Temple and the surrounding area, then it's like presenting a false image in a sense.
If I'm a high school student considering Temple, how do I know that that's true? And as a Temple student, I know that that's not true because I don't see those things happening at all.
It was just shot like it was such big scale, and it makes it feel like a big party, and I don't have that feeling about Temple.
Today's students, today's young people don't have, they've grown up in this world of branding and of, social media, and they don't generally have very many issues with it. It's just the water that they swim in.
It becomes a wonderful way to kind of create community. Whether or not it's there in any particular way doesn't much, that doesn't really much matter, because social media is sort of creating it through its own technical existence.
It's being done through self-expression, through taking like images of your own life. So I mean, in that sense, it's a brilliant move on their part, but at the same time, it demonstrates to me, to some degree, like how branding has become a part of cultural expression for us.
It's every person's right to post whatever they want. And if it's a self-expression of their identity, saying that they feel like that Temple gave them something, or they were made by Temple, especially if they're alum, then they have the right to express that. I wonder how this is influencing high school students, in that, yo, you're going to Temple, that's cool, like.
Where are you guys from? Montclair. New Jersey.
Welcome to Temple. Okay, hey guys, I'm Cindy. I'm a junior theater major here with a minor in English. I'm from DC. First mention of Temple Made I heard, it was actually from a friend about early September, and it was pretty much, it was like, yeah, Temple Made campaign. I'm like, what is that? It sounds cool, but I had no idea what it was. I do recruitment, I bring people in. Why would I, bring people in if I didn't like Temple, if I didn't feel as though Temple was something great? So I am Temple Made. Being here, like, we know how awesome Temple is, how much we like it. So people aren't here, them seeing that, it's like, they get a sense of how it is, but it's that much better in their eyes as they aren't here to actually experience it. Being Temple Made is pretty much being active, getting out there, doing what you've been taught here.
Where we're from, we're in Montclair, like a lot of people talk about Temple. It's very popular.
What can you show us? They like to see where classes are or specific buildings. You're stopping in the...
Here's the issue with that. We are like a half public, half private school, so we can't just bring you into classrooms because classes are kind of in session. But if you wanted a more in-depth tour, you would have to come by yourself, but even then they wouldn't show you any classrooms. Unless you were to come for like an open house or an experience Temple Day.
It is how they present the school.
Yeah,
it is how you present yourself. And what you've heard about the school. Like, those are the things that like really stick out to you.
Reps of the school, yeah, very important.
The reputation, yes. And I heard they're a D1 school in football. And, I like that. I like that.
Athletics, we decided to stay in the same vein and kind of create this really almost like hard-hitting, kind of in-your-face, literally, campaign. And again, lean on students and faculty to kind of be the drivers of this. And so this stuff, I'm sure you saw everywhere, people making funny faces, including professors. And also, again, you'll see establishing a really strong graphic palette. I feel like we own this kind of like black backdrop with the faces on it now. Like this is something you can see it from a mile away.
I mean, the Big East is a huge deal. It's really, I think it's one step of a larger narrative of trying to make Temple more of a regional player as a university. At least since I've seen it, excitement about Temple I don't think it's ever been higher. I haven't seen it ever be higher.
No, athletics very important to students, even though the kids here don't generally seem to support the athletics the way I'd like it. Football is a revenue sport. Basketball is not a revenue sport. The athletic program is what attracts the brand.
We launched with a lot of, football communications and signage, mostly because it was a special moment for the football team, and we wanted everyone to kind of feel energized and spirited to make it out to football games. I think the fact that it's back in the Big East says a little bit about it. But whether your team's losing or not, sometimes it's just fun to be a part of that moment.
I grew up being a Villanova fan, but I mean the Big East is so much better than the A-10 where we play like VCU is our biggest game.
We've had our struggles in football for years, so this is nothing new. I've been to games. I was here when it was a Veterans Stadium, and they would give you a hot dog and a soda for every ticket you bought, and we still couldn't draw flies. Obviously, with Al Golden, we started to get on a little bit of a win streak. It started to get exciting. It's fun when you see more of your fans at a game than the opposing team's fans, and you're starting to see that.
My freshman year, after the first quarter, people were leaving because it was just awful. There was no pride, no one cared. And the growth from then to now is incredible.
It's just a message for our school. Like, it's just a general idea behind us. Like, it's a motto. It's something we can all rally behind. I mean, we all go here. It's like just a message of pride for Temple.
I think it shows that this university is going in the right direction. We're moving up. We're becoming more prominent in the university community. And I think that it shows that we're proud of what we do here and what we make here. And there's a product about Temple, that you come out better and to represent the university and represent yourself with the Temple brand. It's a great thing.
Pieces of all the puzzle aren't together yet. We got a lot of young guys in there, and at times we just, we make mistakes on both sides of the ball at critical errors that cost us dearly. I like our football team. I really believe in our football team. I really believe, as I said, our day will come. Our day will come.
In the 70s, when we really had a lot of trouble and they were laying off faculty and there was a feeling that we'd grown too large, the faculty's concern, its greatest concern, was with football because we weren't very good then either. And we were spending an awful lot of money on something which we felt wasn't a really great urban sport. And you have Temple's really good record in basketball. We said, let's support basketball, let's not support football. So that's always been a question, and the presumed answer always has been that the legislature loves Penn State and we have to at least have a football team.
There's no proof that athletics raises alumni contributions for most schools, and certainly not at Temple.
I asked a class who they thought the audience for this campaign was, and they said lots of people, but not themselves. But they didn't see themselves as the target for the campaign. Mm-hmm. They saw either very specialized sports enthusiasts who they didn't necessarily identify with, or they saw alumni.
The rhetoric of Temple Made speaks to the kind of place that Temple has always been and still is. But the campaign is trying to address the reality that the public, in the person of the legislature and the governor, have rejected the idea of subsidizing Temple as a big city, state-supported university. So it seems to me that we're kind of, it's just all a good feel-good thing that doesn't really address the larger problem, which is that we, like other state universities, have a crisis of identity where we have to decide whether we're just another profit-making venture that happens to sell higher education to people who can afford it, or are we a nonprofit for the public good, or can we be both those things at the same time?
I remember when I used to tell people oh yeah, I'm going to this university, Temple University, they asked me is it like a church or something? Temple is an international school welcoming people from all over the world. So that's what I want Temple to be branded as. And I feel like schools do need a brand. Temple made, it's very broad, but we still don't know what it is because we're Temple students. But what about people from not from Temple? What does Temple made mean? What does that mean exactly?
I feel like there are ways that you can avoid it, and other than that it's really not too invasive. We've got signs around campus, has ads on them. That's cool, man. Temple's just trying to do what it does.
I think it's really cool. When I go downtown and stuff and I see Temple made, I'm like, yeah, that's my school. We're all the way down here.
I think it struck a nerve because for the most part, you see a lot of universities that kind of smother students with opportunities and activities oh, go to this, which Temple, it's here you go, do what you want. You can do nothing or you can be student body president. It's all on you. So really, I think the self-made aspect of the whole Temple-made thing really identifies.
In a way, Temple really took a risk going out there and doing a whole branding campaign and trying to rebrand their identity. A lot of schools wouldn't want to take that risk, but Temple was okay taking that risk, and we're glad they did.
Being a Temple alum and given the opportunity to work on the original pitch for this was an incredible experience, just because it's obviously something that's close to my heart.
When I talk to my students, I talk to them about what's your brand? How do you differentiate yourself when you go out into an interview? And similarly, I ask the same thing about us and the university and our ad campaign. We've only got 30 seconds in this spot to go ahead and convey the message. What do we want to leave people with? And we want to leave people with a little bit of intrigue as a result of seeing this and being able to say, hey, I want to learn more about it.
So I think you have students that go about their day. Just think about Temple before Temple made. Those kids are, they have friends and they're proud of the community. But there's just not that one thing, that message that unifies what they think in their head. In their head, they've been Temple made for however long they've been there. But there's not that message, I think it's just about giving them the framework to think that way, oh yeah, I've been Temple made. And so now I see it visually, and now it makes sense to me.
When I say Temple, you say me, Temple, Temple. When I say Temple, you say me, Temple.